Hey, yo, what is going on, you guys? Got a brand new deck guide for you guys today. Today, we're going to be showcasing one of Fudge's go-to lists. Something he's been playing in tournaments, something he's been playing a lot on stream, but a kind of a newer, revamped version that kind of changes depending on what the meta is. But let's go ahead and jump right into it, as well as Fudge's info will be down in the description below. Here is the deck for you guys. It is a very kind of interesting kind of tech deck, as well as some RNG card generation stuff going on here. Sugar Honey Iced Tea Show, as I would call it. People, of course, will say other kinds of things. But this deck is a lot of fun, and we had really good stats with it on stream. We started off trying to learn the lines, and it took us a while. We started off with this list. I won't lie to you guys. We started off with this list 1-7, and then we finished with what you see, the 12-8. So we went on an absolutely crazy tear. We won 11 games in a row. The last game was just unfortunate, but it was a really, really solid, run and everything for us. Like, when I finally learned the lines, it definitely felt like this flowed much better. Of course, there's going to be some unfavorable matchups when it is going to be something like an Arishem, because you are kind of more in the line trying to face some of these more fair decks that aren't having 20 cards that you have to take into account, so you get less value, with your Gladiator and stuff, and your opponent's having extra energy, and you're not able to really use the Luna Snow to get that extra energy because you don't want to give Arishem extra energy. There's that weird concept there. Of course, you have Luna Snow to potentially play Lady Deathstrike early. Also, the Ice Cube getting destroyed on your side or your opponent's side of the board is also great because it discounts your death. You have Killmonger in here also to discount death. So there's a lot of instances where you're just snapping into getting free death stuff to go on. And one of the main reasons I really wanted to play this list as well is with the changes to Mobius and to First Steps Invisible Woman going to a 3/3. Both those cards now are eligible to be hit by Lady Deathstrike, so your opponents might be snapping into, playing these cards out, but you have counter card to be able to offset them. And, I freaking love Lady Deathstrike. We made a video way back, last season or the season before with Destroy with Lady Deathstrike, but I like this more. It's got a better kind of thought process with it. It's not as super linear as Destroy. And you got to kind of set up your lines a little interesting. So in a lot of instances, you are going to set up your Hood and your Surge on the same lane, because that is just a prime misery target, because more often than not, you are going to be trying to misery your Hood to be able to get another demon, or you're able to just maybe destroy it with a Killmonger. You have Killmonger if you don't have the misery line, but you're really trying to set up to have the misery line, so you just have more power to be able to mess around with on later turns. As well as Surge, maybe you miss your Surge proc because you hit Shang-Chi. You're also using Misery to restart that Surge proc, so you have another discounted card for you to be able to use. There's also instances where I just stack up lanes with cards that have 3 or less power for some extra Lady Deathstrike value, or I set up into where my opponent has cards with 3 or less power for Lady Deathstrike in order to just get as much death value as possible. People are also playing lower powered cards at the moment. We're not in a super dominant Hela meta or something even Scar meta at the moment. So we're going to be able to play Gladiator to be able to destroy a larger variety of these cards. There's instances where you would run Baron Zemo over Luna Snow if you are in more of a Mr. Negative or in something like a Sauron meta to be able to get some value because they're either running bigger cards. Or with Mr. Negative, of course, the cheaper cards, Baron Zemo looks at that. So that's the main general gist here. You have card generation for Iron Patriot, spell generation for Merlin to be able to get extra energy, change locations, turn cards into other cards. And then, of course, you have, tech pieces with the Shadow King, Killmonger, Shang-Chi, Lady Deathstrike, and then Death gets value from all the stuff that gets destroyed on your side of the board and your opponent's side of the board. Just a big powered card you can play towards the end of the game. But let's go ahead and break down why we have each card in this list individually. And as always, this deck code will be down in the description below. And like I said earlier, Fudge's info will also be down in the description below. So starting off first and foremost, we are running the Hood in this list. It is a great target for your Misery, a great target for Killmonger. Since it's a 1 cost that can be destroyed by Killmonger, Misery, of course, can make this go off again. And you want to get pretty much as much demons as possible because that is just a 1/6, which is really solid for you to be able to play out and just have options to be able to just get extra power into other lanes. Of course, then you have Surge, whether this is for your energy discounting, which is mainly what you're trying to do, is to maybe get some of these tech cards out for potentially later or even potentially earlier to set up some better plays for yourself. And then, like I was saying earlier too, you are setting this up into a Hood lane to be potentially miseried again, to get extra value and maybe get the Surge proc to go off multiple times. Because, if you hit Misery with your Surge, the Misery will make the Surge go off, and then that card, I believe, does get hit almost twice from the Surge and the Misery. at least gets hit an extra time. I can't guarantee that it gets hit twice, but it gives you just that extra value, even if you miss the curve you want with the surge lane, to be able to get extra surge procs. That's the main gist of what you're trying to do there. Next, of course, you have Iron Patriot. This is a good card to be able to get value and have just unknown factors for your opponents. And you are running a Gladiator. You're running a Luna Snow. You're running cards that have higher power that more often than not, your opponent isn't necessarily going to be able to compete in that lane. So Iron Patriot into Gladiator or Iron Patriot into Luna is the main line you are doing there with Iron Patriot. The instances, of course, when choosing between Surge, Merlin, and Iron Patriot, depends on what's in your hand. If you have the Iron Patriot into Luna or an Iron Patriot into Gladiator, I would play the Iron Patriot. If you don't have that, I would probably play Merlin. And if you don't have Merlin or Iron Patriot, that's when I would play Surge. I like the option of having Merlin already out on the board to be able to get the extra value from spells. But it also could be up to personal preference. That's just my personal preference, is running Merlin instead, which is kind of also a somewhat flex spot here, of course, to change to Shadow King. This makes this, of course, one of the main 2-drops in here, because Shadow King is now 3 cost. But this gives you just, I think, so many different outs in a lot of these different instances to get value off your cards after you've used your tech cards, because some of these tech cards do have lower power. And then, of course, we have Killmonger to be able to hit, of course, your Hood and your opponent's 1-drops. You're not really trying to hit your demons at all, so you're playing your demons after you play Killmonger, and it's a 3/3, so it has, like I said, that smaller base power, so it would be a pretty good card to be able to hit with your Polymorph, or potentially even rotate this back into your deck if you tempo this out a little bit earlier to maybe get some extra value later in the game, hypothetically drawing Killmonger again. Next, of course, we do have Shadow King. Shadow King, we, of course, are using this as more of a late game kind of thing, or potentially setting cards up to be able to get hit by a Lady Deathstrike, or even Shang-Chi, because, I mean, some people are running Affliction, and maybe some cards are getting reduced from 10 to 9, so you can maybe, set up your Shadow King to be able to Shang-Chi cards, but you're mainly using this to set up for a Lady Deathstrike, or just as a good end of turn or end of game kind of card to be able to kind of solidify some of these lanes. And like I was saying earlier, when it comes to Merlin, if you are going to use once in future, make sure you do this before you do the Surge proc, because if you do the Surge proc and then this, it does reset your shuffle, so you're not guaranteed to get your Surge card. So just keep that in mind when it comes to that. Next, of course, we have Luna Snow. Luna Snow, like I said, the little ice cubes, when they get destroyed, count towards death, giving you also extra energy here to be able to do some of your other main combo plays at the end of the game. Whether that is potentially a Misery, or it is like a Shang-Chi with a Shadow King, or it is like a Shadow King with a bigger card. Like, it also depends on what your Surge hit has. The Ice Cube also is a good hit for your once in future as well, giving you +2 energy on the next turn, opposed to just the +1 from Luna Snow. So you kind of have that as just like an option to do stuff with Luna Snow. It's also as like the flex spot I was saying. You could do Baron Zemo, but that really just depends on your pocket meta, because Baron Zemo is really specific kind of to like what you keep seeing a lot of, because that's, what you're going to be able to steal, which is like why I was saying Fudge told me it is better to use Baron Zemo more so when you're in a Scar Sauron meta, or if you are in something like a Mr. Negative meta, to be able to steal some of their main combo pieces there, or because they run so many big cards in Scar, was kind of the thought process behind that. Next, of course, we have Gladiator. We're not in a Scar meta, or a Sauron meta at the moment. We could be going towards that, as I see more people doing this in Sanctum. But you have Gladiator to be able to destroy cards. It's a 3/8, something you can play onto your Iron Patriot lane. It works really well there. Of course, this gives you the value for destroying a card with death, and it's just a big body for you. If you don't have Gladiator, you could maybe try like a Copycat, just for that 3/5 baseline to be able to add to like an Iron Patriot lane. But I do like the inclusion of Gladiator here. It also can offset your opponent's combo pieces, which I think is also very nice. You, of course, have Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is one of those end-all be-all cards. Of course, it only destroys one 10-powered card in lane. It does not destroy all the cards in the lane, so just keep that in mind when you're playing Shang-Chi. Definitely, I had instances myself where I thought Shang-Chi was still like old Shang-Chi, and then I would win that lane destroying all sorts of 10-powered cards, but that is not the case anymore. So just kind of keep that in mind when you are playing this. It can only destroy one card, and not all cards that have 10 power or more. And then you have Misery to make these on reveals go off again. More often than not, you're just doing this for a Surge, or you're doing this for a Hood, playing them both potentially also in the same lane. You can do this potentially for Iron Patriot value. Of course, the more cards you stack up in a lane, the more cards that get destroyed at their on reveals, which would be, more cards decreasing the cost of death, which also can be really nice for yourself. And it's got a pretty decent base power at 9. So in some of these lanes, if you are trying to like get an Iron Patriot kind of down and stuff and win that lane, you get some pretty solid value with a Misery. And then, of course, you have Lady Deathstrike. We have a lot of cards in this deck that have 3 or less power, as well as there's a lot of cards just on, the market right now or just in other games that Lady Deathstrike is able to destroy. And the main cards now that she can destroy is some of that Mobius and some of that First Steps Invisible Woman and Jocasta. And I've seen more Omega Sentinel and Cerebros and cards that have not been, buffed by Cerebro just yet. So, like, this card just has a lot of value, and it's not really a card that a lot of people are probably seeing at the moment, which is another reason why I think it's kind of sneaky in this list in order to kind of steal cubes. And then we have Death. It's just a big card that you're able to play potentially at the end of the game that has been discounted for all the cards destroyed across the entire game, which is really nice. 12 power is nothing to scoff at, especially when you can play this out for cheaper more often than not than 5 and 4. Like playing this out for 3 or less is your kind of like sweep spot. Of course, playing out for 0 is the most optimal. But getting value, because this normally is not going to be an 8-powered or an 8-cost card, and if they do Mobius you have Lady Deathstrike to deal with the Mobius. But that's going to be the general gist of the deck over here. We're going to jump right into some gameplay from stream, and then I will see you guys at the end of the video. Okay. Not a horrible starting hand here for us. They need to fix this freaking Merlin not appearing. I've seen so many different things with Untapped where Merlin just does not appear for people. The Hunger. Okay, we have Shadow King for that. And Shadowlands. I guess my hot location tonight is Shadowlands. Set up Surge. Actually, no, let's go Surge here. Because this deck might also be running Red Guardian. So if they Red Guardian, it hits the Ninja. Instead of hitting Surge by itself, because I'm not going to Prio more than likely going into this next turn. So I don't want my Surge to just immediately get the bonus turned off. Yeah, location matching is not real. Passive Exile. We do get Merlin. But I kind of want the energy. So I think I'm actually going to go Sam into Astero. Go this. I'm going to... This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 destroys. 6 destroys. Do that. And then I do have a lot of stuff to destroy here with Killmongers. My thought process there. Speed's pretty big into Surge. That is fine. So they get those extra draws, but I now can Lady Deathstrike left. I also have Chi. Okay, Lady Deathstrike can hit all of this stuff. And then I'm set up for some interesting situations. So I think it's actually this. With the amount of destroys I've had, I either get Gladiator, Misery, or Death as some of these options. And I don't really want to mess up my draws here, because most of these draws are really solid for me. So I would rather just do this. They have Zombie Scarlet Witch. And Red Guardian hits Surge. Heard. I go Lady Deathstrike left. And then it will be... There's my Death. It'll be Shadow King, Demon, Poly Death. Is this enough? I think it's enough. 10 right. This goes to 2. This goes to 0. They have a Pim arrow. Pim arrow could be pretty good, big, which would be 2 plus 6. We beat Pim arrow, right? We have a lot of power left. Yeah, 17 power left looks pretty good. Value here. And that's a good chunk of power, right? I think this looks pretty good here. And the top deck death was the best out of, like, the options we could have had. Yeah, and they had the zombie prio. They Absman Red Guardian. Wow. Into Kitty. Into Fanta. Which gets Shadow Kinged, Demoned, Poly turns Surge into First Steps Torch, and then we get a Death down. So we get a nice casserole. Sweet. That will work. Alright. Hood, Merlin. Hellfire Club's a little unfortunate. I'll go Hood middle. I have Merlin, which I also can't play the spells in the Hellfire Club, which kind of sucks. Yggdrasil. Okay. I'm going to actually go Iron Patriot into Luna. They Kitty. Black Panther. No, that's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. We get Shadow King. Yeah. Okay, so we got ourselves a Horde deck. Herd. Into Hala. I'm going to snap into this because we should kill that on the right. Which seems pretty good. Seems like a pretty good play. I know it's early to do this. I know it's early. Can I beat 16? Oh my goodness. The answer was yes, we could beat 16. The answer was yes. If I do this... They're staying in this? Okay. Alright, we got some crazy stuff happening here. Mercury? Sage. Okay, so I go this. I think it's that. I mean, this also just wins, I think. What is about to happen here? Is this about to be zombie? This is about to be Fanta and then zombie giant man? Absman, Sage, Grandmaster, Surge. Okay. The variants they got is really cool. I like all the variants. Sky Zorro. What is Zorro playing tonight? Ooh, Onslaughts. Hello. Turn 1 snap. Oh. I mean, I got Lady Deathstrike in hand. Let's have some fun. What we got? Quicksilver. Oh, is this the Wiccan thing? Some sort of Wiccan thing for sure. I'll go this. Domino. It's clobbering time. It's clobbering time. You know, this turn 1 Wiccan is going to be a little rough for me, I think. Not turn 1, but... Scarlet Witch into Hunger. I mean, we can play Death out on this next turn, which will be nice. I can go... They Wiccan middle. If I go Merlin... And I let these cards get destroyed here, but Merlin goes off first. Oh, Zombie Scarlet Witch gets destroyed. Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Absman. Yeah. What's up, Puzzles? How you doing, bro? Welcome in. All this unknown energy. Surfer, Iron Man. Do, do, do. And then poly that into Panther. Wow. And then I also changed Omniversal. Yo. Now that was a high roll. Holy smokes. Chi into Black Panther was better. I was going to do something crazy. So I had a Moon Girl from Iron Patriot, and I was going to get another Death. Even though you had Mobius down, I was going to play Death next turn, and then I was going to just continue to get ways to play Death. So that is what my thought process was there. Not the craziest, you know, but I was like, this seems pretty good. And then getting Silk destroyed also was nice. That kind of was like a feels good kind of thing. The Chung. Yeah, this list is very fun. Definitely very fun. We're doing this to set up for some stuff later, I think. This is Viv. Changa going to not Viv. Cool. I'm going to do this and that. Does this fill my hand? It does not fill my hand. We do hit Viv here. Yo, what's going on, Miss Joker? Welcome in. I have Killmonger. Honestly, it probably would have been... Actually, the right play is probably Hood onto Misery next turn. That probably is the right play. So I do believe I played that wrong there. I'm going to go Killmonger, Gladiator. I'm going to play Changa. Do I want Prio? What if I just do this? What if I just do this? I have Chi, I have Death. 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5, 6. I actually like this. I don't hate this. We get cooked by something crazy. It's gonna be like Zombie Power Man or something, or Zombie Giant Man. Sorry. Into Sasquatch. Gladiator comes out, which hits Frankie. Frankie gets cooked. And then I also get Agony. Clea. Into Magneto. Okay. Into Mysterio. Into Mockingbird. Then I go... See, Gladiator in this is goated. Yes, 100%. Also, these are going to get hit by Fanta. I think it's this into this, that. 10 plus 2 is 12 plus 12 is 24. They play Sasquatch out. This got hit by Gwenpool once. Gwenpool once. They have also Flames. They probably play Flames here, or play Flames here, Flames here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sasquatch cost 1. Okay. Merlin, Flames. Flames. Fanta. Chi hits one of them. Merlin, Changa. 14, or not 14. This should win. Sweet. Let's go. Let's go. Huge. We just had to play around the Sasquatch. We just had to play around the Sasquatch. We like start. The thought process is just slowing it down. I play this game too fast. Like, in general, I play this game way too fast without thinking out a bunch of options. This is a really good turn one. Fran, by the way, has been on Patriot Ultron stuff for, like, the longest time. But it's like an activate Patriot Ultron now, because they have Jocasta, they have Danger. They have Hulkbuster also in this, too. They're like an early CL player. I think we'll do this. Actually, no, I don't want to necessarily clog myself up just yet, because we might also be trying to throw priority at the end just for a Killmonger. Yeah. Yeah, no, there's so many different things you have to be thinking about. Oh my gosh, first steps Galactus, though? Hold up. Ooh. Wait, actually, this is not bad. Wait, this is actually, like, good. They, of course, will get extra energy with Herbie here. I will get Rock shuffled in my deck, but I have Once and Future and I have Surge. I think we can play this. I don't know. I don't think they have anything they could really... No, I do actually think this is a snap here. Maybe I'm being ballsy, but, like... I think with the First Steps Galactus being the card I pulled, even though it is on Lechugia, I have Maryland to be able to get rid of those rocks. And I have Killmonger if I want to throw Prio for certain situations here too. So I actually really like what we're messing with here. This is pretty cool. Pretty cool. And then, like, we can go... The order is going to be, of course, you know, getting Surge after we've done, like, the Once and Future and stuff. Ultron again?! Oh my goodness. Wow. This is crazy. This is crazy. Wait, what? Okay. Threw me off there for a second. Hold the phone. Okay, they get a First Steps Galactus. I get a Lasher. Bro, turn into a Goblin. Ooh, Punisher's kind of cool. Punisher is kind of cool. I'm gonna do... Yeah, no, the Gladiator went crazy. So my final turn is literally just gonna be Shadow King Killmonger. Damn. Sam. Lasher. Polly turns into Deathlock. And then I'm going to go Killmonger, this, that, and that. Cool. And that will work. Just play the long game. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you guys did stick around the very end, please let me know down below. Have you guys played anything similar like this, or what are you guys playing at the moment? And definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And make sure you guys do follow Fudge on his Twitch and his Twitter, which are going to be down in the description below. It's been real. God bless, and Tucker out.